This was the transition I chose. Unfortunately, I've had to blow out this candle about 100 times before I could get a shot that I was satisfied with. But I guess it's what we're going with at this point. So welcome to Idea Garage. My name is Brandon. This is my first YouTube video, and the goal of this channel is to show you guys the things that I've built and hopefully inspire you to build your own projects. This video itself being a perfect example of that, as I've been putting this on the back burner for years, and this project that I'm showing you is nearly 6 years old now, and I've built some much cooler stuff in the meantime, but this is what started everything, and I want to be a good example and show you guys just what taking that first step can do for you. So hopefully this video pops up. If not, it's not a good example of that, but that's what we're going for. So before we get started on actually showing you what this thing can do and how I built it, let me give you a little origin story. So back in 2020, I got very sick, and I watched a lot of Avatar: Last Airbender because of that. And it's a great show, highly recommended. In said show, there are people known as Firebenders who are capable of shooting fire from their hands, and I wanted to do that. So I set out to create a device that was capable of emulating said ability. And with that being said, please do not try this at home. This project is potentially very dangerous, and if you try it at home, you could die. So this video is just for educational and inspirational purposes only. With that being said, I'm going to show you how I made it, and then I'm going to show you it in action. So when I first started this project, I had a vision of myself shooting flames from my fists, and not much more than that. So I knew I had a lot of research ahead of me, but I did have a core idea of what I wanted to make, and that was a punch-activated or motion-activated flamethrower of sorts, meaning that the moment I threw the punch, flames would come out of it, and there was no other trigger mechanism necessary. Now, I knew I would be able to do it, but I did not have any experience or an idea of what the budget would be, so I started doing a lot of research, and I looked into different ignition methods, fuel delivery systems, and aesthetic designs. And in my research, I found a video by ALLAN PAN, who had genuinely made something so similar to what I was trying to make, which was a lifesaver. And this gave me renewed hope that what I was trying to build was indeed possible. So I ended up learning a lot from Alan's video and saw what he built, knew what I wanted to build, and what I wanted to do differently than him. So if you liked my video, I highly recommend you check out his video next. I'll go ahead and leave a link to his video in the description. But since Alan quite literally beat me to the punch, and I had to use that at some point, I ended up using his video and his project as at least a foundation for me to build my project upon. And with that, it came down to me building my own version. So I first started with the Arduino, as I had no experience with that. To give you some information of what an Arduino is, it is essentially a microcontroller that you can customize, and you can kind of give it different directives. And what I wanted it to do was connect to an accelerometer. That way the accelerometer is capable of reading the motion of each punch, and when it hits a certain threshold, it will send a message to the solenoid valve to open up and release the butane gas from within the canister. And at that exact same moment, it will also send a message to the arc lighter to turn on and ignite. That way, when the gas is released, it will ignite the gas simultaneously within a single motion of one punch. Then the system reloads and is primed for the next shot. So it'd be very difficult, and I had no experience in that field. So I ended up using a link in Alan's video to hackster.io for the schematics. And I went and joined like 50 different Discord groups to be able to learn how to code the Arduino and get the proper PCB placement and just learn the whole craft that was necessary. Now, I did also have to learn how to solder, which I had no experience, but that came a little bit easier for me. And once I got everything working, I was able to build my first prototype, which it worked, just not very well, which still is the most important factor, is that it worked in the first place. But once something works, even once, you know the idea is real. From there, it just came down to refinement. All right, now before we start lighting things on fire and showing you what this thing can do for the sake of education, I do want to show you what it looks like and explain my design choices and why it looks the way that it does. All right, now there she is. finally get to take a close and personal look at the project in its completed form. She is 6 years old. She's a bit of an old lady at this point, so please be kind to her. I know that there are many things I can do to improve upon this design. However, this was before I had a lot of the resources that I have now, such as my 3D printer and my CAD software experience. So at the time, I just used whatever resources I had available and was able to use a wooden base to build everything else upon. Gave it some custom metal plating as the top here, and I did a painting of a dragon. Kind of gives it a bit of a shimmer. It has both a beautiful and ugly look to it. That's pretty unique. I quite like it, actually. So starting from the back here, you have, of course, the input where I'm able to plug in the butane canister and fill up the nipple, is what it's called, with gas. And store it. This is the on and off switch, as well as the charger for said battery. There's a separate battery system right here that gives me the ability to turn on and off the LEDs that go in there, kind of make it have a heated, fiery look. It was something I really liked at the time. And then of course this is just the ability to open and close said valve here whenever I have it filled up with gas. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the innards of this device as well. Alright, and once we get the protective casing taken off, you can see actually the inside is the netting from a bathing suit that I was getting rid of. I use that way that the light from the LEDs that are on the inside were able to kind of spread out and look a little less obvious whenever you do turn them on. Again, very resourceful to say the least, as I just did not have the resources that I have now. But I wanted to create something great, and I think I did a pretty decent job. You can see underneath here is some of those electronics we had mentioned. Here is that Arduino, as well as the accelerometer and the PCB that they're placed upon there. The LEDs are covering some of the internal components here, but this is that canister, the nipple I mentioned prior, that fills with the butane gas. Here, behind this portion, is the solenoid that opens up and allows the butane gas to be released here before reaching the very front. Now in the front here, I took off some of the protective casing here as well. You can see that is that arc lighter that ignites the gas. This is all a seamless and automatic process. One of the improvements I did upon Allan's design here is that this front area would often catch fire whenever using the device. And I saw a use for that, so I cased it in plated metal on the edges to protect the components, as well as the wood base underneath. And then whenever I'm firing a shot, sometimes the gas does not seem to want to ignite using the arc lighter. So therefore, once I have a successful shot, some of the residual gas sticks around in here, and this allows the subsequent punches to be ignited without having to rely solely on the arc lighter, which actually makes those successive punches much more clean and alleviates some of the worry that would come from it not working properly. Of course, I've got to always have the risk of burning yourself. Now, when I originally made this, I cut this out of steel, based in my garage. And then I added this nice leather portion at the bottom, as well as the strap here for my forearm. That way it was a lot more stable when using the device. Other than that, underneath the strap here is a battery, as well as some other components, but this is essentially the finished device. And especially at the time, I was very proud of what I had made here. Do have to screw this back on, but we'll just leave it on top for the time being. But this is definitely pretty unique looking compared to other things I've seen on the internet. Still pretty proud of it, as it taught me a lot at the time. But after I was completed with the product here, I went ahead and made a nice casing for it. That way I could easily transport it from one point to the other. Other than that, guys, I understand that there are many things I can do to improve upon this design. I did think there for a while to make one for my left hand. However, I did end up building something else to kind of fill that role. We'll show you that in a future video. But if you guys have any ways that you'd want to improve this project or any recommendations for if I did ever want to make a version 2, I am happy to hear them in the comments. Just let me know. Other than that, guys, I think we've waited long enough. We'll go ahead and show you this thing in action now. Alright guys, so I have us back here in the middle of the woods. I thought it would be a good spot because we just got a bunch of fresh rain and everything's nice and damp, as well as I'm far from any infrastructure I could possibly damage. So I do want to test this out, but before we do that, I do want to thank anybody that's been watching up into this point, as this is my first YouTube video and any encouragement really helps a lot. If you could like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate that, as well as that'll also help encourage me to create more videos for you guys in the near future. So thank you again. But without further ado, let's go ahead and test this thing out. All right, and I'd like to dedicate this first shot to the mosquitoes that keep biting me up today. All right, now that I have that out of my system, let's try a slow motion shot. All right, let's see what we can do against a cardboard box. We'll put it this way. It's a little safer.
I'm not impressed.
All right, let's see what we can do against a water bottle. It looks like we were able to do a little bit more to a water bottle than a piece of cardboard. Looks like we kind of boiled the plastic there a little bit. Cool. I'll pick that up. Now, I'm sure you're curious as to how powerful this thing can get. So we'll go ahead and fill it up with about as much gas as I can possibly put in it, and we'll find out together. Let's do it. Well, let's see what it looks like from up there. That might be a good view. All right, let's try something a little bit more fun. Crazy. All right, now that was fun. Last thing I have to do is find a use for this glass pane here. Wonder what I can put behind it. Making this video was a ton of fun, and it was great being able to use the flamethrower again, as I had made it 6 years ago and I didn't have enough footage from back then to fill the whole video with, so I had to put it on and burn the hairs off my arms again, which was a great feeling. But that's not what this video is about. I actually do not recommend that you guys make anything this dangerous at all. The point of this video was to encourage you to pursue your own ideas, and the goal of the channel as a whole is to show you how you can start with just an idea and you can make a reality just on your own. Thank you for watching. See you next time.